Welcome back. There may indeed be a U.S.-North Korea summit after all. Last night, President Trump said talks are moving along very nicely. And the leaders of North and South Korea met yesterday, sounding hopeful that the summit would happen. Panel is back. And joining us to talk about why the on-again, off-again summit may be on again is Victor Cha. He's the former director for Asian Affairs at the National Security Council and was in line to be President Trump's first pick to be ambassador to South Korea. Mr. Cha, welcome to Meet the Press.
Thanks.
Let me ask you this. Why is there uncertainty around this summit? And are we almost too focused on if it's going to happen and not focused enough on the substance?
So the uncertainty, Chuck, I think is largely because we're dealing with North Korea. Andrea and I went to North Korea 10 years ago, and we had the same problem. We had no information before we landed. We had no itinerary. And so you can imagine when you're sending the president 10,000 miles to Singapore, there's got to be a lot negotiated in advance, and none of that was happening. So I think that's why it's been on again, off again. But in terms of the substance, I mean, we're all focused on the roller coaster. But in terms of the substance, the key issue is, are they going to give up their nuclear weapons? And I think, unfortunately, the answer is no. Do they want a peace treaty, the North Koreans? Absolutely. And they want a peace treaty because it validates them as a nuclear weapon state. It ensures that Trump won't attack because we were worried about an attack last year. And most importantly, it means money. Not because the United States is going to give money to North Korea, but we are the primary obstacle in places like the World Bank and the Asian Development Bank, the IMF, where the North Koreans want money.
Who's the obstacle to this summit? Is it China? Is it John Bolton? Is it, or are these not obstacles? These are just people trying to trying to slow things down a little bit.
I think, frankly, that's all noise on the side. I mean, in the end, the issue that seems to be holding this up is, frankly, just logistics. The fact that Joe Hagan is going to Singapore to engage in meetings, he's the key person for organizing the logistics of a summit, but not the policy substance. Those are other people, and I don't think that they are engaging right now with the North Koreans in real policy deliverables that we should expect to come out of Singapore.
Andrea, it does seem the timeline, and both you and Matthew sort of noted this week, that when Kim Jong-un went to China the second time, it also happened simultaneously with the trade talks.
Exactly.
All of this seems related.
I think it is related. I think China wants to slow it down. They're not at the table. Victor and I have talked about this, and other experts, Admiral Stavridis and others. But the fact is, there is a momentum toward this happening. Kim wants it badly. Moon Jae-in really wants it and needs it, the South Korean president. And President Trump wants it. He sees this, I think, as a legacy where he is making history, and he certainly would be. I think it is very likely on for June 12th. If you noted that the president tweeted angrily against the New York Times for quoting a senior official whom we all know was a national security official.
Who the White House insisted you couldn't quote by name.
200 people were on the call. Yeah. There were 50 people in the room, and he said, this was Thursday, he said, June 12th is 10 minutes from now. Right. You know, we can't get it all together by then. And then the president was tweeting that this was a lie. This was a New York Times lie, which of course it wasn't. But the fact is, the president wants it to be as scheduled in Singapore, June 12th. And I think, to Victor's point, the dysfunction on the national security side is pretty profound. You've got Bolton, Pompeo, who is heavily invested in this now, despite his hardline positions. Mattis really wants it because he does not want military engagement. And they have to figure out the policy side, but I think it's going to happen as a photo opportunity, if nothing else.
Matthew?
I do think we can't overlook China's role in all of this.
Yes.
The second meeting between Kim and Xi Jinping took place right around the time the 3 hostages were released, which was a sign of progress, I think, in de-escalation. But ever since that meeting, up to this past week, the North Koreans became much more belligerent in their tone, much more insistent that they would not be giving up the weapons at all, and then began attacking Bolton and, of course, Vice President Pence, in addition to being non-responsive. So Trump has this tendency to want to personalize relationships between states. But at the end of the day, he always kind of runs up against the wall that there are power dynamics between the great powers, such as the United States and China, that may prevent a settlement in North Korea.
Also, I'm not sure that the North Koreans needed Chinese encouragement to be sort of obstreperous in this negotiation, because fundamentally, you know, are they going to completely denuclearize? And I am extremely skeptical about that. And I think most people, you know a lot more about North Korea than I do, but I can't figure out why they would agree to do that, having a great cost and effort purchase what they see as an insurance policy for the regime, and a way to project power and authority in the region. Are they just going to give that up at any price? And I'm very skeptical.
Well, and I guess the other question too is whether the president can claim victory regardless of whether you have denuclearization. And I think it's the one area where the president thus far has gotten some bipartisan support. Americans say, yeah, he should meet with Kim Jong-un. That alone would be a victory. It's a victory to get those 3 hostages.
But I think verification is going to be, let's say the summit takes place and there's a lot of pomp and circumstance and it is a moment of history. How would you ever negotiate first and verify anything approaching denuclearization? There's reporting this week that they have another secret site underground. I'm sure they have
of course
many.
They do.
And this would make the Iran nuclear deal's verification with eyes on from international inspectors.
Can I just go back
laughably more complicated.
Please.
To a quick point Eugene made. I mean, 56 years ago, the North Koreans started landscaping the area where they built this nuclear program. And on December 12th of last year, they said, we've accomplished what we wanted. So 3 months later, they're all of a sudden going to give it all up?
Yeah.
It's just doesn't make a lot of sense.
Victor, final question for you. What does China want? Do they want a peaceful Korean peninsula that is 2 countries? Or are they going to or are they willing to stand aside for a united Korean peninsula in the long run?
So how much time do we have to speak?
30 seconds.
So a couple of things. The first is, of course, they want stability on the Korean peninsula. China has border disputes with everybody around them. The only one they negotiated with was North Korea, because they need that border to be secure. So they want that. They would not prefer a unified Korean peninsula, because most likely that would be someone that is still allied with the United States, and they don't want a U.S. military ally on their border. I think Andrea is exactly right. There's been some hesitance on the part of the North Koreans after the second meeting with Xi, because the Chinese want a seat at the table. They don't want Trump and Kim talking about peace without the Chinese at the table. And so for all these reasons, we've seen a slowdown.
And the Chinese at the table now?
They're still not at the table yet, but this summit's going forward. Kim says he wants the summit to happen, so it's going to happen now.
The event's going to happen. We'll just see if there's any substance.
I think China will eventually be at the table.
Yeah, I agree.
Right there. All right. Hey, NBC News fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here, and then click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.